Welcome into another edition of Gone Racing. Jeff Motley here in the Dude Wipe studio at South Point Hotel Casino, and I am joined, sadly, remotely. I think is this a fifth? This is a fifth week in a row, I believe, that Brendan has been in the Brady Bunch box. Where are you this week, Brendan?
I'm back in Baja. I'm back in my happy place down at my house down here. But I'm down here getting. I didn't really tell anybody, but I tore my Achilles back in February. I've raced the Baja 500 with it. I raced San Felipe 250 with it. I have a partial tear, not a full. And so I came down to CPI stem cell to see if I can't get it fixed up a little bit. I talked to my buddies over at the UFC, Mr. Epstein and the guys over there, and kind of guided me over here to CPI. And it just happens, Jeff, that it's only 15 miles from my house. So super easy, coming down, get some during the day, stay at my house at night. I can think of much worse views. Once again, you guys have the view of the house. I have the beautiful view right now of the Pacific Ocean. It's a rough life where Waldo is, but I'll grab a dude wipe and wipe a tear for all you guys for you in the studio, Mr. Motley.
So since the beginning of May, you've done more shows from Mexico than you have from Las Vegas.
Yes, pretty much.
And with two shows in Florida and a show in New York thrown in.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
I've been all over the place. Hey, where's Waldo? Professionally unprofessional, and where's Waldo? That's us.
Well, God bless you. I hope the stem cell stuff works. So, all right, Brendan. So before we get into talking about this incredible race last week in Atlanta, we got one little bit of news this week. We got our first lame duck driver on the year now with Daniel Suarez not coming back to Trackhouse. Kind of disappointing because I know you and I both really like Daniel a lot. I mean, he's a great dude, but I guess that's kind of the nature of the business, right?
Well, but I think that's actually, to me, them announcing it right now, Jeff, is positive for both sides. They both know, and if you listen to Daniel's interview, they know that it was going to happen, which means that Justin also knew it was going to happen to Trackhouse. So to me, that's the best move for both parties. There's been those deals where they knew, but they weren't allowed to say for months, and that hurts a career. No, somebody might have had that issue. So, it definitely is a better deal where it lets people know that Daniel's available. It lets people know that the Trackhouse ride is available. It's better for both parties, and it sounds like neither of them are upset that it's gone. And Daniel, I am sure, will land somewhere because he's a great kid, got a lot of potential, and has pretty good sponsorship behind him. So he should land somewhere good.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be rides pop up as we get into the summer months here, and I'm sure Daniel Suarez's name is going to be at the top of the list for almost all of those. So let's talk about last week's race, a track where Daniel Suarez had in the past had great success. Now, how about before we even talk about the race, share the text that you were sending me toward the end of that race?
I've said this the last couple of years, Motley, and that race, if you were not entertained by that race, I can just hear, what is the movie Gladiator? Are you not entertained? I am so happy to watch that race from my couch. Marcus Smith, the guts it took to do that, repave the way you did it, and to make it a super speedway race. Wow. The haymakers the last 20 laps. I was sitting there. I was making a diamond. I was clinched so tight. I mean, that was so much fun to watch. And I am so glad my happy butt is sitting on the couch watching that, rooting for my buddies, not in the middle of it going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, who am I and how did I get here? It was tremendous to watch. And if you were not entertained by that, I'm sorry. I don't know what else we can do.
Well, I like to say there's an old saying, there's certain people in the world, they ain't happy unless they ain't happy. And those are the kind of people that wouldn't like that race. Those are the people that don't even like kittens and puppies, because that is unbelievable racing. I mean, it was as good as I have seen anywhere.
Even knocking so many cars out. It was still a great race. I mean, it was fantastic to watch. Fantastic.
And you and I talked a little bit off the air. Denny Hamlin brought up in his podcast this past week how losing some of those cars early gave those guys some room to operate to make some of those passes. Now, the difference was we didn't see William Byron, Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, because they'd all been knocked out in this crash early in the race. But that did not lack for the excitement that we saw coming from Keselowski and Reddick and Elliott and Bowman and all those guys.
Zane Smith almost won that race. Zane Smith was leading that thing. I mean, throwing haymakers with Chase Elliott, throwing haymakers with Keselowski. It didn't matter. Names weren't there. Names were being made, and it was, God, it was just fun to watch. And Denny's not wrong. The fact that you lost a few cars made it where these guys could dive bomb and slide job and over, under, push. And it made for some amazing racing. But that track also made amazing racing when a lot of them were left a couple years ago, like that finish with Kyle, Chris, and Daniel, right? So the track right now is turning out to be one hell of a racetrack.
No question. Well, it was a big popular win in Atlanta, Echoes Park Speedway. Chase Elliott, the hometown guy, who I thought with about 3 laps to go, I thought he was out of it. I'm like, he's toast.
I thought he was out.
I'm honestly sitting here getting upset that I've lost my group to Hocevar. And then the next thing I know, here's Chase Elliott going for the lead, but he was 20-1 to win that race. He was a plus 400 for a top 3. He won Group C. At least I got one group right last week at plus 285, and he brought Chevy home plus 130. First time back in victory lane in a while for Chase Elliott. Do you think this is kind of the catalyst that gets that team going? He's been consistent all year.
I think it's a lot. Like we said, I would kill to have that slump, right? I mean, what I think is hopefully it'll get him over some of that mental slump he's been in, because I think a lot of that has been in his head, because he's been so good. And to do it at home in Georgia, I'm sure the bells of Dawsonville were ringing like mad that night, and it was fun to watch. But yeah, that plus 20-1 shot, that's a hell of a win right there for the bettors.
Well, if you look at the rest of the top 10, and not a huge surprise, Brad Keselowski, a whisker of finally breaking the schneid and getting the win there. He came in plus 450, and then Alex Bowman got a third place there, plus 700. Alex Bowman.
Who?
Alex Bowman.
Is that two like top 5s?
Did he win?
Sorry. Keep going. Keep going.
Is he in the playoffs yet? I'm just saying. Is he in the playoffs yet?
Please keep going.
Okay.
Please.
But now we look at the rest of the top 10. Tyler Reddick, great run. Again, another week, a Legacy Motor Club car. And again, it's Legacy. A different one. I mean, so this week it's got to be John Hunter, I guess. Because it's like every other week, it's either John Hunter or it's Eric Jones. But Eric Jones, great run for a top 5 there. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Zane Smith, and the guy I want to talk about, Ty Dillon, number 32 in this playoff bracket, goes head-to-head against number 1 Denny Hamlin, and he had clinched that spot before we even finished the second stage of the race.
And his interview afterwards, way to go, Ty. Just jump out there and try to make some noise. He's, to all the Denny Hamlin fans, I knocked your favorite driver out. This is why this playoff format, look, you and I talked. I don't think they started this thing on the right foot, so to speak. But you know what? It's got some excitement. You started at Atlanta. You end up with this top 10: Zane Smith, Ty Dillon, Carson Hocevar, Ricky Stenhouse, Eric Jones. These guys, all of a sudden, you've lost your number 1 seed. You've lost your number 2 seed. You've lost. I think you only have 3 or 4 of the top 10 seeds left now. So this is a wide open format for somebody to win that $1 million.
Yeah, and people want to compare it to like the NCAA tournament. Like UMBC beat Virginia that year. I would bring up a game by an Ivy League school over a team from DC, but I know you don't want to talk about that one.
Yeah, it wasn't a 116. Okay, 116. Let's talk about the 116.
But my point is, in the NCAA tournament, you might get that big upset in the first round, but you still have some of the big powerhouses that win in the first round, and then it kind of resets itself, right? Well, now we're going into the next round, and we've got Eric Jones against Ricky Stenhouse Jr., the number 20 and the number 29 seed, going head-to-head in the second round. So that's kind of what you're dealing with here. So you really did lose a lot of the star power in this thing.
Well, and that's why they didn't do the seedings correctly. They got to work on getting those seedings done better for the next year and learning from their mistakes this year. But still, wide open.
But with Hamlin, Larson, Byron, Logano, Blaney all caught up in one big wreck, it wouldn't, even if the seeding had been the way we thought the seeding should have been, you still would have lost a bunch of the top seeds in that.
You still would have lost superstars. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, let's take a quick look at how our groups did last week. Brad Keselowski, he won Group A plus 335. Kyle Busch got a win last week. And in Group B, a plus 270. Chase Elliott, obviously winning the race, won Group C. Tyler Reddick got a win there in Group D. Ryan Preece, you said Suarez was your lock last week, and the pit crew took Ryan Preece.
He was in the wreck.
But that can happen at Atlanta. We know that can happen at Atlanta.
Yes, it can.
And then Alex Bowman wins Group F, and no more comments from the peanut gallery. All right.
Just saying.
Quick look at our standings, Brendan. We're up to 12 winners. Do we start saying that 16 is not guaranteed? Van Gisbergen really wants to win this week in Chicago.
Well, I mean, look, you get an AJ Allmendinger. If you get another one of these road ringers this week, and then you still have a Daytona, and we still got, dude, I'm telling you, Jeff, this may be the year we get a winner that you and I text each other after the race. They better stop saying win and you're in, because if they get too many more, there's still a lot of races left. 4 positions. You could get somebody miss this thing with a win. It could be this year. I'm back on that wagon after being off it for the last couple of years.
Well, fortunately for a lot of these guys that have not won a race but are at the bottom of the top 16 right now, a guy won the race at Atlanta who was ahead of them in points already. So Chase Elliott didn't knock anybody out. But you're right. If an AJ Allmendinger were to win this week, or Eric Jones wins this week, then that is going to knock somebody out. But we've got a little bit of a buffer right now. It's 23 points between Bubba Wallace and Ryan Preece now at the bottom. But Bubba, who's been so consistent, and suddenly he finds himself, well, not far from being out of the top 16. So, and we know he doesn't like road courses. And one of them wins
behind him. Well, then he's out.
And we know he hates road courses, and where we're the next 2 weeks. So, speaking of the upcoming weeks, after this week, we're running the streets of Chicago, and it is supposed to rain again, I hear. Then we're back to another road course, completely different, not a street course, road course, heading out to the wine country at Sonoma. Then we get to, I guess, a little more of a normal racetrack, we would call it, if you call Dover a normal racetrack. It's not normal, but it is an oval that we would be going back to. Then we go to Indianapolis, which believe Indianapolis will end the playoff.
Yep.
In this bracket situation,
of in-season tournament.
Yep, and then we'll switch it over to Iowa, little 3/4 mile track, very similar to Richmond. So you like the diversity coming up?
Again, the NASCAR schedule this year has been fun to watch, hasn't it, Jeff? I mean, the way they go, people could say, "Oh, it's road course." Doesn't matter. 2 totally different road courses, super fun to watch, great schedule, and Brickyard for the championship round. A lot of fun.
Well, no one can say that the schedule does not have diversity to it, because we have a great amount of diversity in the schedule right now. All right, we're back on Gone Racing. We'll start giving you the odds to win and the odds for top 3. Welcome back into Gone Racing. Jeff Motley here at the Dude Wipe Studio at the South Point. Brendan Gaughan joining me via remote from his summer home down in Mexico. Brendan, you look you look a little. If people, Sirius XM can't see, but if you're watching on YouTube, you look a little lonely in that big room you're sitting in there. I see more pillows than I have ever seen in one room in my life. I mean,
those are actually beds right there. When we made, remember, I've got 2 big brothers and a little sister, and we had a lot of parties down here with friends, and those mats become beds. So it's a very comfortable room, but surrounded by our favorite thing with my family. We wallpaper walls with pictures, Jeff. That's what my mom and dad have always done, and I think it's cool. I love it. It's all the old history of the family. There's pictures of my dad from Baja in 1980s, 1970s. Picture of my grandpa with presidents, my father with presidents. So it's a fun little room down here.
Well, it looks like a lot of excitement there. And that's what we're going to have this weekend in Chicago, right? Running the streets of Chicago for the 3rd time. Taking a look at what we've seen the past couple of years. Shane Van Gisbergen kind of just burst on the scene. His first ever Cup race back in 23, picked up the win there. Last year had some issues. It wasn't of his own making or anything, but he did win the Xfinity race last year, but did not have as much success in the Cup race. Alex Bowman got the win there. But, you kind of look down and it's kind of funny. You don't see the same names from year 1 as to year 2. It was because last year was kind of a little bit more of a dynamic. I think we've had the weather issue both years. We've had the rain each year, but I think last year the field kind of got screwed up a little bit on some pit stops and stuff, and you kind of got a little bit more of an upset with Alex Bowman.
You had that wreck early that took out kind of your favorites, Larson and Dinger and SVG and Christopher Bell. So that you got some of the names taken out early, but you look to me, you got Gibbs with a 9th and Gibbs with a 3rd. You had Gibbs in the Xfinity Series with a 2nd. There's some guys, and 2 names you and I have been talking about, or the team we've been talking about, John Hunter Nemechek in the Xfinity Series with a 2nd place in the Xfinity Series there. So you just said Eric Jones week. This week it's John Hunter's turn. looks good for John Hunter. He looks like he's runs pretty well there in the past.
No, I agree. And he's had good runs in truck series back when he was in a truck series running road courses. So expect him to do well. All right, let's take a look at our odds to win. No shocker here. Shane Van Gisbergen is a plus 200. The way he dominated the race in Mexico City and the fact that he's got a win here in Chicagoland comes as no surprise. He's followed by Christopher Bell is plus 700. Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, and Ty Gibbs are all 10-1. Tyler Reddick is 12-1. William Byron 16. AJ Allmendinger 18. Chris Buescher 20. Michael McDowell, Ross Chastain, and Alex Bowman 25-1. And Chase Briscoe and Kyle Busch 30-1.
God, there's a lot of names there with big numbers. I mean, SVG at plus 200 and only one other guy in single digits. Jeff, I mean, Ty Gibbs, remember we talked at Mexico City. Who was the guy that I said was the only guy that could hang with SVG? Ty Gibbs, there he is, 10-1. Kyle Larson, one of our best in our sport, there he is, 10-1. You know, even going over to the Dinger with all that experience, 18. The guy, Chris Buescher, that's become a road racer that we don't even realize. He has more top 10s in the last 10 road races than any other driver. There's Chris Buescher. So there's a lot of guys with good numbers here. It's just you're going up against, especially, I just looked up the weather, like you said, 45% chance of rain. SVG just, man, with how he looked at Mexico, it almost had to bet on SVG.
Well, I don't disagree with you, and I'm glad you're sitting down, because I do want to say that another name that jumps out at me here, 25-1. Alex Bowman won this race last year, but there's more than that about Alex Bowman. Note this: Alex Bowman finished 4th at Mexico City 2 weeks ago.
Yes, he did, and struggling with a head that hurt and a body that was sore. And you're not allowed to talk good about Alex Bowman. You're not supposed to be saying those things.
Well, I am going to talk nice about Alex Bowman this week, because I might even pick him somewhere this week. I'm just saying.
Look, like you said, he's looking strong. Alex Bowman right there, 25-1. That's a good one.
All right, let's take a look at our longer odds here. Well, also a couple more 30-1s. Daniel Suarez and Carson Hocevar are 30-1. Will Brown coming over from he's New Zealand, Australia. I get confused down there.
He's the same place that SVG came
that's
from.
New Zealand. He's a New Zealand guy,
supercar guy.
Yep. From New Zealand, and I believe he's driving. Is he driving a Trackhouse car?
Yes.
Is he a teammate to SVG for this week? I can't remember exactly what car he's driving.
Will's driving for Colleague. Will is over at Colleague Racing.
So he'll be with Allmendinger.
AJ Allmendinger. Yep.
Okay, so Will Brown, who is and by the way, Will Brown is a very accomplished road racer. I mean, very good. We saw what Joey Hand last year coming in, finishing 4th. We seen what Shane Van Gisbergen did right out of the box when he came to the U.S. in 23 by winning. So don't think for a second that Will Brown as a driver is not capable of winning a race like this. He definitely is capable as a driver if his car is up to it. Anyway, along with Will Brown, Austin Cindric and Ryan Blaney also 40-1. Ryan Preece is 50. Denny Hamlin is 60, along with Joey Logano. Corey Heim and Todd Gillen are 100-1. Eric Jones and Bubba Wallace are 200, and the field bet is 20-1.
Yeah, I mean, the field bet doesn't have. If they had put Will Brown in the field, maybe I'd have thought about it. But with the fact that you got SVG, Seabell, the guys that are so good, and then a Will Brown out of the field, I don't see the field bet being good this weekend. But I do really like you said, I mean, Daniel Suarez, good road racer. Will Brown, a great road racer. There's some names there that I don't dislike. Even Corey Heim. I'm not going to bet him to win, but Corey's done such an amazing job on the trucks this year. He's pretty tough right there. That kid could surprise a lot.
And just want to point out, the guy who finished 2nd in the inaugural Cup race here in Chicago, he's in the field as well. Justin Haley had a 2nd place run here. So you're right. There's some guys in the field that could come and surprise you a little bit. All right, let's take a look at our top 3. And folks, just chuckle when I say Shane Van Gisbergen. He is minus 250 for a top 3, which I think, let me tell you, that's one of the worst bets ever.
Deserve it.
Well, because here's the thing, though. He's either going to win or he's not going to finish in the top 3. Because Shane Van Gisbergen is not running second. The only way he's not winning this race is if something happens to that car. Either they have a horrible pit stop, or he gets in a crash, or the engine blows, or he has a flat tire. Because no one is going to beat him on the racetrack. So that's why I'm saying he's not finishing 2nd or 3rd in this race. If his car is good enough to finish 2nd and 3rd, he's good enough to win it as a driver. I'm just saying. Okay. Now I can get that out of the way before we go into any analysis. I want to throw that out there. Okay. Kyle Larson is a plus 180 for a top three. And I wish people could see how hard you're laughing on TV right now. Christopher Bell, plus 210. William Byron, Tyler Reddick, and Ty Gibbs are plus 350. Chase Elliott, plus 450. Will Brown, 500. Alex Bowman, AJ Allmendinger, Ross Chastain, Michael McDowell, and Chris Buescher, all at plus 600. Chase Briscoe, 700. Kyle Busch and Daniel Suarez, 800. Ryan Blaney, 10-1. Carson Hocevar and Denny Hamlin, 11-1. Austin Cindric, 14. Joey Logano, 22. And Brad Keselowski, 28.
Listen, this shows you the odds to win were from the South Point. The odds for top three come from DraftKings. There you go. Will Brown went from the second page of the South Point odds to win to a first page plus 500 for a top three. That's a good bet, but I'm not going to take that. I'm looking at Gibbs right there. I really like that Ty Gibbs, especially what I saw in Mexico City, plus 350 there. And even Michael McDowell, who has been really good here also. McDowell's got 2 top 10s in the 2 races here, average finish of 6.0. I really do like McDowell at plus 600 right there also, or 800, 600.
You know, there's a couple guys out there that even have a double digit by their name for a top three. That's Carson Hocevar at 11-1 and Austin Cindric at 14-1. I like both of those guys there. You know, Cindric, I think Cindric's a very capable road racer. And it seems to me like he has not gotten a lot of help from his pit box sometimes on these road races. Like sometimes it's like their decision of when to pit, when not to pit, when to stay out. Seems like it's backfired. So maybe they've learned a little something, I think, from Mexico City, because I thought he actually had a pretty good car at Mexico City, and things just, it seemed like they kind of got off of a sequence a little bit. And I don't know. I just thought he had a chance to have a stronger run down there.
Well, look, and Kyle Busch, both races with Childress, 5th and 9th in the 2 races at Chicago. You know, I mean, he hasn't been a slouch here at Chicago either. So, you know, you and I both have kind of jumped off the betting on Kyle Busch bandwagon for a bit, but there he is.
He did win a group last week.
For top 3.
He won his group last week. He did. Oh, no, that was Atlanta. All right, our longer shots. Ryan Preece, Justin Haley, and Corey Heim are all 28-1. Bubba Wallace, Austin Zillin, Zane Smith, Todd Gilliland, John Hunter Nemechek, and Cole Custer are all 30-1. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Eric Jones are 40-1. Noah Gragson, Josh Berry, 50. Austin Hill, odd to see Austin running a road course race here. I mean, I don't think of him as much a road course racer as I do as a super speedway for him coming up in the Xfinity Series at 70-1. Riley Herbst is 80, and then Ty Dillon, Josh Bilicki, both at 100-1. Catherine Legg back in the Cup Series this week, along with Cody Ware at 150-1. Cody Ware, I guess, is also another guy that potentially is a lame duck driver as well, because I think it was announced that Rick Ware is selling that race team at some point. So you don't know,
but they said they're keeping Cody as the driver.
Oh, they are. Okay.
But here's the deal on this page right here. You know, you and I have both talked about you know the what do you call it, the legacy teams. John Hunter Nemechek 30-1. Every week, one of them has been in the top 10. John Hunter has, you know, a really good run in the Xfinity Series before. John Hunter did not have a good run in this car last year, but the team was also terrible last year. So they've been running much better. You're looking for a good long shot right there. JHN 30-1. Not a terrible pick, Jeff. I just, you know, I don't think that's an awful 30-1 shot.
You know, and there's another guy there at 30-1, and like
Haley.
Well, I talked about Haley, I guess, a little bit earlier, and he's 28-1. But the other guy is the guy who won the first ever Xfinity race here on the Chicago Street Course. Cole Custer is 30-1. And I just think that it just wouldn't surprise me to see somebody get in the top 3. Like we saw Joey Hand finish 4th last year. It would not surprise me to see somebody manage to sneak their way into the top 3. And a guy like Cole Custer, or heaven forbid, Ty Dillon at 100-1. I mean,
look, I mean, Joey Hand did it. SVG won, and nobody knew from him. Todd Gilliland finished 7th last year. You know, so I mean, there's some guys here that absolutely on this page could shock you and get that top 10 or that top 3. But we're talking about a betting show, Jeff. If you're looking at some of these odds for these guys in top 3 is this big, you might be able to get a John Hunter for top 10 and still a 10-1, a double digit. Now we're talking. Find out where you want to bet.
No, you're exactly right. That's why we call it betting. All right, we'll be back on Gone Racing. We're going to talk about this week's matchups in the tournament and give you the groups. Welcome back into Gone Racing. Jeff Motley here in the Dude Wipe Studio at South Point Hotel Casino. Brendan Gaughan joining me remotely from his summer home down in Mexico, trying to get his Achilles heel all fixed up there with some south of the border medicine. Is it working?
Stem cells. They say it's a great thing. They got one of the best places in the world down here, right over. Used to be Panama and France, and everybody knew that. That's where Tom Brady and these guys went. But now they all come down to Tijuana to CPI. So hopefully it works for me.
Well, we're wishing you the best on that one. Well, Brendan, last week we talked a little bit about the in-season tournament, but with 16 head-to-head matchups, it was kind of hard to break them all down. This week we've only got 8 head-to-head matchups, and we've got some pretty good numbers on some guys. On one side of the bracket, we got Ty Dillon, a plus 135 against Brad Keselowski's minus 185. Bubba Wallace is a plus 150 against Alex Bowman's minus 210. John Hunter Nemechek is a plus 195 against Chase Elliott's minus 280. And Eric Jones and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. both at a minus 115.
I look at that and go, well, wait a second. Brad K ain't that great here. He's got 2 starts, average finish 21. Ty Dillon is not Austin Dillon. Ty Dillon is a little bit better road racer than Austin Dillon was. So you're giving me the 32 seed as a plus 135 against Brad K. I don't know. I mean, I'm intrigued by that. Brad, a couple weeks ago when he ran out at Mexico, wasn't all that great. No stage points, finished 25th. So I don't know. I'm intrigued by betting that. I might take a head-to-head with Ty Dillon right there and get that plus 135 number.
I would say on that side, I agree with you. I think that's by far the most intriguing one of the 4 where I think there could be an upset in terms of the odds. I do like that one. Now looking at the other side, a little bit of a different scenario here. Noah Gregson's plus 110 to Ryan Preece's minus 150. Carson Hocevar plus 130 to Tyler Reddick's minus 175. AJ Allmendinger plus 100 to Ty Gibbs at minus 140. And Zane Smith plus 165 to Chris Buescher's minus 230. And Brendan, not so much the odds for a second. Just throw the odds out for a moment. I think the most intriguing matchup of all 8 matchups in the head-to-heads here is AJ Allmendinger and Ty Gibbs, just because I think that's a great matchup.
It is a great matchup. And Ty Gibbs is, I said earlier, he's got, at best average finish here in the 2 races, but the dinger is the dinger. AJ is a heck of a road racer. Just because he hasn't had good runs here doesn't mean this is not a place that I haven't said AJ would be good at. So that is intriguing right there. And then the Chris Buescher minus 230, look, a plus 165 in a head-to-head. I love Chris Buescher. I'd be willing to bet 2 units on Chris Buescher. But you're giving me a head-to-head that you can get 1 driver for plus 165, and all that has to happen is Chris get a mistake or get wrapped up in a tight corner accident. So Zane Smith plus 165, that's a big number on a head-to-head.
No, I agree with you there. And, the one that we really haven't broken down much that I also think is a pretty intriguing number is Carson Hocevar. I mean, it's plus 130 against Tyler Reddick, who's minus 175. We know how good Tyler Reddick is on road and street courses. But, man, Carson Hocevar, that guy's good every week now. It doesn't matter where he goes. He's competitive every week.
Can you imagine if that kid was in a Hendrick car or a Gibbs car or something? He's doing this in Inspire, and we're talking about him this much. So way to go, Carson. You keep on digging, kid. Do
you think it's that much longer before we have to just imagine it? Or before it really happens?
I don't know. That could be the next big mover right there with how well he's running.
I mean, my thought is if there's rods that open up, he's going to be the number one. I mean, you got to believe Trackhouse is already interested, right? He fits with Justin Marks.
Sure.
Justin, I mean, he fits perfect with Justin Marks, but I mean, I just think any car owner right now, I mean, look, I know there's a little bit of untamed wildness, if you will, there, but guess what? So what? The way he handles a race car at his age right now, you can, all that other stuff, you can rein that stuff in, but you can't teach some of the stuff that he has natural ability. So yeah, I think he's going to be quite highly sought over. After, over, whatever. Yep. Mm-hmm. There's no backspace key when you're talking on a microphone. Like it's nothing you can do about that. So thank you for helping up my grammar. Okay, Brendan, let's get into our groups. And Group A, now here's my question, Brendan. When you looked at Group A, how close did your hat come to blowing off your head when you saw this? Shane Van Gisbergen is plus 120, and then Christopher Bell is plus 295. But are you ready, folks? Kyle Larson is plus 410. And Chase Elliott, one of the most accomplished road racers in NASCAR, is plus 445.
Why did they put SVG in a group if you're going to do this? But I'll tell you what, Chase Elliott coming off a win last week. Chase Elliott, who in the first race here, and that this is a guy that is running pretty darn well every week lately.
He's the most consistent guy. Chase has been the most consistent guy all year.
Who finished third at Mexico City? Chase Elliott. So you're giving me Chase Elliott at 445? I'm sorry. The juice is worth the squeeze, baby.
Yeah, I would. I totally see that. Look, I said, I think Shane Van Gisbergen's going to win this race. However,
absolutely.
If
it's not a lock.
It's not a lock because like we saw last year, anything can happen. And there's a whole lot of there's a plethora of things that can happen here. Like we said, crash, flat tire, blown engine, bad pit stop, poor strategy in the pits. I mean, there's any one of many things that could go wrong. 445 for Chase Elliott. Boy, that is so tempting. It's just so hard to want to do it when I think Van Gisbergen is going to win the race. But wow, heck of a number. Definitely something worth looking at. All right, let's move along to Group B, where Tyler Reddick is our favorite here at plus 240. William Byron, plus 245. Chris Buescher, that guy we like to say is sneaky on the road courses, is plus 295. And then A.J. Allmendinger comes in at plus 300.
And Chris Buescher, we talk about it, nobody realizes it. 1 win, 3 top 5s, 8 top 10s in the last 10 road courses. Average finish 7.5. I mean, it's ridiculous. So 295 against, look, Tyler Reddick, he's good here. He's been good here. Tyler's got 1 top 5, average finish of 15 with 1 bad race. Byron, no slouch. Dinger, talked about Dinger. He wasn't there. He didn't really do well at Chicago or at Mexico. Had a run in. 295 on the guy that used to cash all our tickets. That is the sneaky guy on road courses. I'm not going to say no to Chris. He's got 1 top 10 in the 2 races here. I'm willing to take it.
I'm with you there. I like Buescher, and I don't know about Byron here and Allmendinger. As good as AJ is on road courses, we really just haven't seen that show through lately.
Haven't seen it. Haven't seen it lately.
So I'm with you. Buescher's the guy that's, he's kind of put up. He's the guy that's put up numbers. And like I said, he's got a great number by his name. So plus 295. Love that number. Give me some Chris Buescher. All right, let's move along to Group C here, where Ross Chastain is our favorite at plus 250. Then it's Alex Bowman, the last year's winner, at plus 265. Chase Briscoe at plus 275. And Kyle Busch at plus 280.
Look, I know we talk a lot about, Kyle Busch, not betting him, all this stuff. Remember, Kyle at Mexico City had that wreck early, right off the bat, lap 8. Kyle was taken out of that race on his own. It was his own fault. What he did was his own fault.
On a wet racetrack, which we may have on Sunday.
Understood. And he said he went too deep and blah, blah, blah. But odds, if you look at history, Kyle Busch, even at this track and road racing, Kyle Busch is the odds-on statistically the best driver in this group. Plus 280. I don't see Kyle Busch making the same mistake twice. Do you, Jeff?
I don't see him making the same mistake twice. I just don't see him winning this group. I mean, he's the long shot.
I mean, two top 10s. He's one of the only guys with 2 top 10s here. 2 in a row, both at RCR. The last 2 years, 9th and 5th. 2 top 10s, 1 top 5.
All right. Well, I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to duck behind the table. But I like Alex Bowman here. And I know. And look.
Oh, be still my heart.
Look, he can win this group. That doesn't mean I think he's going to win the race twice in a row. But look, he ran 4th at Mexico City. He won this race last year. He has confidence on these type of tracks. I just think that I just say don't sleep on Alex Bowman this week.
I say it most every week on the other side of you, and I would agree with it. To me right now, the 2 dogs in this group should actually be the 280, 285, Kyle Busch, Alex Bowman. I like both of them. If you're going to bet this, bet one of the 2 dogs.
That we agree on. All right, let's move along here to Group D, and this one has really got me flummoxed. Daniel Suarez, flummoxed. And Daniel Suarez is plus 210. Will Brown is plus 265. Then Austin Cindric at plus 300 and Ryan Blaney at plus 320.
Look, Brown has a start, and he started Sonoma last year for colleagues. So he's got to start. It's not his first time in these cars. Cindric has a top 10 here. Blaney has a top 10 here. Daniel does not. I don't know. I mean, I kind of want to put a bet on Will Brown just because, you know, I won. Remember, I won SVG, his group, 2 years ago. I bet him for a top 3 and to win his group back then, and y'all laughed at me. I kind of want to bet Will Brown just a little money on the Kiwi and see if he can win it out for me.
Well, and I can appreciate that, but I'm also sitting there and I'm looking at plus 300 on Cindric and plus 320 on Blaney. And I think I like Cindric a little bit better than Blaney because look, we know what he's capable of doing on a road course, and I just believe at some point, it's going to shine through. Yeah. And I might try to say I think it's going to be this week. All right, let's move along to Group E here. Carson Hocevar is your favorite at plus 210. Then Ryan Preece at plus 220. And then these two guys being in Group E in huge numbers. Denny Hamlin, 330, and Joey Logano, 355.
First of all, you got Denny Hamlin in Group E. I mean, isn't that one of those? Don't we have that rule, Jeff? That
and he's not the favorite. Of those
guys is this?
And he's not the favorite.
It's not the. I don't know. Denny and Joey down there. I'm trying to give you some stats here. Joey Logano, 2 races, 1 top 10. All right. And Denny Hamlin, no top 10s. Average finish of 20. You love that host of our Priest has been sneaky good too lately. You know, so I don't know.
Well, we'll be back. We'll be back and finish up this group and give you our picks. Welcome back to our final segment of Gone Racing. Jeff Motley here at the South Point Casino. Brendan Gaughan is laughing hysterically as he joins us from Mexico this week. Yes, it was almost like we had a fire drill going on in here. Well, Brendan, you were so excited talking about Group E that we almost ran over in our last block. So we'll finish up there with Group E.
We did not.
We did not. Actually, you had to save me after running over about 30 seconds last week. So, I guess we're even now, right? So, but we talked about Group E, and I do really like Hocevar here at plus 210, but I just can't pull the trigger on him. I don't.
It's frightening that Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano are in Group E, and you and I aren't both going, we have a rule. We got to pick one. Your reigning champion is in Group E, and Denny Hamlin, the toughest driver this year, is in Group E, and we're both going, I don't know. I kind of like the other two. Yeah. So I ain't touching it. Yeah, Priest, he's been solid every week. So, all right, let's move along to our final group where Justin Haley is our favorite at plus 245. Then John Hunter Nemechek, Zane Smith, and Brad Keselowski all at plus 275. Yeah, that Haley bet, I mean, you know, he did, like you pointed out, he was runner-up that first year here in the rain. Looked pretty dang good, too, if you want the truth. I mean, had a pretty good run going that day. But something right now to me, Jeff, we talked about at the start of the show, those legacy cars every week, one of them is in the top 5, top 10. They're both run good. John Hunter with his history here, I got to go to John Hunter. There's just a feeling I have that John Hunter is the pick that I want right here. Well, if I were picking this group, I think I would agree with you 100%. I don't know that I'm going to pick this group, but I'm kind of with you. I think John Hunter is like the logical guy, although I think my biggest hang up is Haley. You know, Haley's shown that he can get around this type of racetrack. So not disagreeing with you on John Hunter, just I'm struggling between him and Haley, and probably the reason I'll stay away from this group. All right, let's take a look at our manufacturer picks here. Chevy and Ford are both plus 130, and Toyota is plus 330. And Brendan, one thing I want to point out is, to me, no, Jeff, look at your screen. Jeff, that's the wrong numbers that we had. The real numbers are minus 230 for Chevrolet. Oh, I got bad numbers here, don't I? Let's say that again. Yeah. Okay. Minus 230 for Chevrolet. Plus 275 for Toyota and plus 550 for Ford. Okay, now that's different.
I have a bad
But
sheet. 230,
Jeff. Minus 230. Are you kidding me? That's like they're basically now. If you talk about all the guys we've talked about, right? They're driving Chevys, most of them. SVG is in a Chevy. Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson. But to me, Ford. In a Ford, you still got Michael McDowell. You still got some great drivers. And Toyota, I'm high on Ty Gibbs. I think that he's got a really good shot here. So I think this is a great week to try to bet the don't line and try to give a 275 or a 550 for Ford. It's absolutely worth picking one of those numbers.
Well, seeing Ford there at 550, you're probably never going to see a manufacturer pick that's going to be much higher than that. And look, I look at Cindric, I look at Blaney. I mean, those guys are certainly capable. And like you said, you never know what's going to happen with some of the other cars out there too.
One of only three guys there's only three with two top tens. Michael McDowell is one of the three.
Oh, and guess what? Who else you getting at 550? You're getting Chris Buescher.
And you're getting Chris Buescher.
And Chris Buescher is no slouch at all. So, all right, let's take a look at our championship odds. Nothing big really changed this week. Even though we got a new winner, Chase Elliott, his odds got a little bit better, 10-1. But I don't think we're going to see much movement. Honestly, championship odds, there's not much to it unless we get a big upset winner until we really get into the playoffs at this point, I don't think.
Nope, just keep reminding everybody that's where you hedge. There's still guys with value. Logano, Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Alex Bowman, even guys with a lot of value to give you some hedge room at the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's take a look and see how we did last week. We got to give the pit crew their props. We'll get to them probably last. I guess we're going to go in order here. I know I got one group last week. I got the Chase Elliott group right, and in Group C, that was the only one that came in for me. I had William Byron getting taken out early on in the race did not do me a lot of good. Bubba Wallace was in several, as you like to call them, Hasselhoffs. So it was pretty much I had all my eggs in the Chase Elliott basket about halfway through. Brendan, I think you got one pick, but it was a head-to-head. I think you had one of the head-to-heads right there.
Nemechek
over Josh Berry. That was another situation where you had a guy caught up in the early wreck, so you pretty much could kind of relax a little bit there. And then our pit crew got three last week. Tyler Reddick in Group D, Brian Preece in Group E, Alex Bowman Group F, and those lower groups pay just as well as the higher groups do. So great job by them. It gained on us a little bit, but the standings did.
They got the double digits, Jeff. They're double digits. Look, the standings here they come. Double digits, baby, for the pit crew. They're out of like relegation area now.
And the graphics not working, so the pit crew doesn't really get to bask in their glory on the screen right now.
Just so you know, they're 10.45 units, Jeff. We're 21.7 is me. You're 28.25. But congratulations to the pit crew. Double digits. Might be the first time in a couple years we've seen double digits out of them. So way to go, pit crew.
Yeah, ever since they put that wrestling picture up the year that they won, it's kind of been all downhill.
That's right. Old Karina and all them started talking smack.
Yep.
And we had to take them down.
Yep. You're right. Okay. So let's get to our picks for this week. And the pit crew is still in last. So I will read the pit crew picks. Now, Anne swears she did not listen to anything you said. She made her picks prior to listening to our show. But she is on the Ty Gibbs bandwagon with you. There are pit crew and Ann and her team there. They're taking Ty Gibbs to win at 10-1, and the rest of their picks are in groups. They're going Chase Elliott in Group A. They couldn't pass up that 445, and quite understandable. Chris Buescher in Group B. They're going Kyle Busch in Group C, and they like the Kiwi. They're going Will Brown in Group D.
I can't dislike their picks. I really like almost all of them, and the only thing I hope is that Ty Gibbs doesn't win now and he just finishes top three, because when I start my picks, Mr. Motley, I am going to start with the same driver, but not to win. I am going Ty Gibbs for a top three at plus 350. Give me a little bit more leeway than they're taking. And the top threes, I am going with the man that you've been poo-pooing all season, Alex Bowman, top three at plus 600. I think that Alex has earned the ability to say that he's run that well this year. Then I'm going head-to-heads. I'm going into the playoff bracket, and I'm doing Ty Dillon versus Kez. I'm taking off that plus 135. The 32 seed, the dead last seed, TD, is going to bring it home for me to get to the round of 8. I love it. And then I got two group matchups. I'm going into Group A. That juice was just too big for me to leave out there. Chase Elliott at plus 445. And I'm going top and tail. I'm going Group A, and I'm going Group F. The JHN, our theory of legacy, every one of them has been in the top 10 lately. I'm going to say it's John Hunter's turn, plus 275. Bring it home for me, John Hunter. Get me a solid top win in that group, and I'll be happy.
Well, I give you credit for the old putting your money where your mouth is there, because you have been all in on him. So I like that. All right, my picks this week, I'm going to go with a couple head-to-heads. Well, you and I are going to agree on Ty Dillon. I do like the Ty Dillon against Brad Keselowski, the plus 135, got to beat one guy. I like Ty there. And and this might surprise you a little bit, but I'm also going Noah Gragson plus 110 against Ryan Preece. I think Noah's a pretty decent little road course racer. We've seen him do really well in Xfinity and trucks in road courses. And a lot of times in the Cup Series, it seems like he's just had some bad luck more than anything. So, and he's only got to beat one guy, right? One guy. It's easy. Just beat one guy. And then
easy.
Yeah,
it's easy.
Exactly. And my other three are in the groups. I know this one is probably one you probably wanted if you could have made 6 picks, but I am going to go into Group B and take Chris Buescher. Really love that plus 295 number on him to get him there in Group B. Group C. Yes, I'm doing it. Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman, Group C. See, and it's just
you're not allowed.
No, it just proves.
You're not allowed.
No, but it just proves. I'm not down on Alex Bowman. It's just that I said at the beginning of the season, I had to pick somebody that I thought would be my most disappointing driver that I did not think would make the playoffs. And he hasn't made the playoffs
I'm just
yet.
saying.
And I'm just saying. So, and then I'm going to go with that plus 300 on Austin Cindric in Group D. I'm not totally sure why I'm feeling good about Austin Cindric this week. But again, Austin Cindric's one of those guys, he always seems to run well, and something just weird happens on a road course. And I think he's too good for that to keep happening.
Well, you and the pit crew going head to head on that one. So they got Will Brown and you've got them. So the rest of us, looks like none of us are really crisscrossing this week. So should be a fun week where we can root for everybody. Ty Dillon, or now that even though I want Ty Gibbs to win, now I want him to finish second this week, just so I can not lose that bet to the pit crew.
Well, I'm looking forward to this race this weekend in Chicago. I think some of the scenes of seeing the cars, running through the city is fantastic. I guess there's probably seems to be some sentiment might be the last time we get to see this race through the streets of Chicago. I know there's been reports out, NASCAR looking potentially put a race in San Diego on the streets around Coronado in that area. And I've got to believe if they were to find a place to run on the street in San Diego, that would probably mean having to move the race from Chicago. I mean, I think that's just logical, but I think this has been a huge success for NASCAR in spite of the weather that they've had each of the first 2 years. They've certainly had suboptimal weather with rain and delays and things like that and storms. So there's a chance of rain in the forecast, not nearly as bad as what we've seen in the past. So what are you looking forward to this weekend?
I'm just looking forward to another good race. I love street racing. It does exactly what I've talked to you about for years, Jeff. It's technical. It's correct road racing. You must hit your marks. You don't have room for error. You don't have room to just run off a corner and keep going. So I love that about this, which then means some of that cream will rise. Those guys that are great road racers will rise to the top, which is why SVG will be there, which is why Seabell will be there, which is why Dinger should be there. So I think that we're going to see a great race. If it does rain, you know me, I don't dislike the rain races. I love watching it in the rain. It's an art form to me that is truly one of the most remarkable things you can do on the pavement, especially in a stock car. So I hope there maybe is a little sprinkle, and hopefully everybody has a great time in Chicago and has a great 4th of July, a happy, safe one, and good luck to everybody out there, and let's have a great race this weekend.
Yeah, and I think you made a key there. There's not a lot of runoff here at Chicago. It's not like most of the other road courses that we go to. So, well, I echo Brendan. Hope everyone has an amazing 4th of July holiday. We'll be back next week. We'll break down Chicago, and we'll talk about another road course as we head to Sonoma.